Oh, okay. Oh, he can't watch 100 Thieves games or what? What's going on here? Okay, let's read the Cody Sun thing.
I think
all right. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's see. This is probably going to end up being a Clipperino. I don't know. All right, for the longest time, NA has been plagued with complacency. Great pretenders that get signed based off of brand value alone. Many of whom show absolutely zero respect for solo queue or the latter. These individuals will employ psyops on the masses to convince that solo queue isn't important. They do this by constantly engaging in various forms of psychological warfare and interviews, social media, spreading... What? Psychological warfare, social media, spreading rumors and causing drama, all of which is done as a means of distraction from their own inability to improve in solo queue. Example, 51% win rate in GM with 1K games. What does that even mean? There's literally professional players, even in Korea, that are master tier or like grandmaster. You do not need to actually be challenger in order to be a top. I mean, okay, now I do think that if you can't get challenger, or if you can't be high challenger or something like that, yes, there's an aspect of the game that you're potentially missing, sure. But I don't actually think that it doesn't mean that you can't be a top tier player, because I think that we have seen players like that in LCK and LPL, so it just does not make sense to me. It really, really doesn't. It is absolutely thrilling to see EG find success in the LCS with a roster of true NA solo queue terrors that have been grinding the ladder for years without any compensation. These men have been quiet, locked in, grinded away on one of the most disrespected ladder in League history. What is he saying? They have Jojo Pyun, they have Armao, who had a shot in LCS before, and then his shot ended up not going super well. Okay. They have Revenge, who's been in the LCS for several years. He's just been on bottom tier teams. They have Unforgiven, who's an import, and then they have that went to Worlds. They have the winner. They have an LEC Worlds player as an import, and then they have Isla, who was also an LCS for quite a while. What is he saying? What is this? Okay, it's fine. There are a few players that don't lose themselves in the fame and attention that playing in the LCS brings. There's no fame and attention that the LCS brings, and we can actually know with certainty that the LCS does not bring fame and attention. Reason being is because if you turn on your stream, you have less than 100 viewers. Because playing in LCS does not actually convert anything to your brand, which is actually why most LCS players have no Twitter following. They have no Instagram following. They have no YouTube following. In fact, all of the YouTube videos for all of the teams have absolutely no analytics because LCS doesn't bring you any fame and attention. In fact, most people don't even know who's playing in the LCS. LPL and LCK players literally don't even know who's playing and what teams exist in the LCS. There is no fame and attention in the LCS. The players are actually the only thing in the LCS, which is why it's really important to grow your brand on social medias and on YouTube independent to the LCS. Makes no sense what he's saying. They forget that they were chosen for their skill and proficiency in the game and not for their brand value. That's actually not always true. That's legitimately not always true. Some players that have actually been hired have been hired over other players because they were worth more to the brand. This has actually happened many times in the LCS. And I think that's fine if that ends up happening, as long as we're not like dishonest about that it's happening. Experience and past achievements. These are false metrics. Clown face. Players that rely on false metrics to stay competitive will ultimately get exposed for years of lack of dedication to the game. They will constantly downplay solo queue and their lack of ability to achieve a high rating, often excusing themselves for their lack of effort. Okay, I agree with this part, sure, okay. Therefore, I never ask you to judge me on my past achievements, but to have the perceptual ability to see the person and player that I am today. Solo queue is the lifeline of competitive League, and the importance of dedication and the purest form of skill will never be understated! Exclamation mark. I have always and will dedicate myself to mastering the art of ADC, regardless of regional differences, uncontrollable circumstances, or distasteful gossip and public dramas. Challenger in EU West, Korea, and NA. Patience, words of the... Yeah, but Challenger doesn't mean anything. You can literally be a challenger player, and it doesn't actually mean that you play the game well. Like, I don't know how people don't realize this. It's like mind-boggling to me. The funny thing is, the thing that he's actually saying about like psychological warfare, interviews, social media, spreading rumors, causing trauma, it's actually fake. That if you're challenger, then you're a good pro player. You're not. There's lots of really bad challenger players. It just doesn't make any sense. Challenger does not mean... Knowledge is not linear in League. So comprehensive knowledge is not linear in the league. To be a challenger player, you can have various different skill sets. You can be really good at just executing certain mechanics and certain patterns over and over and over and just memorizing them and doing it repeatedly, right? Like, if we look at like even the scrims that we did versus the Academy mid laner last week, or like T1's Academy mid laner, that is a challenger level Korean mid laner. He has no idea what's going on. Literally just oblivious to everything that's happening in the laning phase. And then when I coach him a few days later and go over the lanes with him, he doesn't realize how many things he's doing is wrong, but he's a challenger level Korean mid laner. So like, what are we saying? Like, just because you're challenger doesn't mean anything. So just because you're high rated in a solo queue ladder doesn't actually matter. So the idea that just because you're challenger in US, Korea, and NA, well, by this logic, I mean, RJS should just be on LCS because RJS was higher than almost all boot campers in Korea, especially, right? RJS like grinded away. He actually played in Korea for like 2 years and stuff. There's so much more that goes into being a pro. The other really weird thing about this is one of the things that I will agree with him is that unless you are ridiculously good in solo queue, like ridiculously, it's really, really, really difficult to bypass some of the things that he is talking about in terms of brand value. The other thing that he doesn't realize is that North America especially is a region of politics, more so than probably any other region in the world. There is a lot of politics, but you have to understand that that is the format of North America, and that's not going to change. Now, the other really weird thing is obviously there's some of the like quote retweets on this, some of the quote retweets. You have like Snowbird saying, I've watched League of Legends for 12 years now. Once every 2 years, we get at least one ex-pro player who generally loses their mind. Yeah, this happens very often. And Snowbird says it's such an interesting phenomenon. Bro disappeared and then came back to write a think piece. Well, yeah, he did disappear. So like by his own logic though, the fame from being in LCS, how is it possible for him to disappear? How is it possible that no one actually tracked what was going on with him? Now, the other really funny thing is, again, I had a very negative interaction with, so I've had interactions with Cody Sons over the years. I think I like helped him when he was in Korea years ago. He like reached out on Kakao Talk or something like that. And then I had a really negative interaction with him when I think he was on like Clutch Gaming or something, where I was literally just trying to show math, something that wasn't arguable about like game state, minion wave, minion EXP, champion movement speed, etc. And I just had an absolute flat earth experience, like conversation. I think Snowbird said something else here, but I can't remember. Anyways, so I guess that's it for the quote retweets. It's unfortunate that NA does operate this way, but when you know that it operates this way, I don't understand what good it, like, at this point, his tweet reads like RJS, right? So only his friends are probably going to read this tweet and whisper sweet nothings to him. Everyone else is going to look at this tweet like he's off the rails. That's just how it is. Now, he could, now, I think some of the things that he's actually saying in the tweet chain is true. It is accurate. Other things he's completely ignorant about, like the fame of LCS and all this other stuff. When you say stuff like this, engaging in various forms of psychological warfare and interview, social media, spreading rumors and causing drama, this is absolutely batshit crazy to just say without citing certain examples when you're on a tangent that you yourself are a part of. I think it's totally different if he's like an EU West player and he makes these claims, right? He hasn't played an LCS. And the reason being is because I feel like people will not associate a level of bias with it, and they won't feel like he's emotionally charged in what he's saying. He's not emotionally driven by certain things. Other things that he says is like, obviously the EG thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The Grandmaster 1K game thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. And he says, never asked you to judge me on my past achievements, but to have the perceptual ability to see the person and player that I am today. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know. I think this whole tweet chain is really, really bad for him, and I think it just damages him. Because if he really does believe this, what he's saying right here, this whole tweet chain, it's like shining a light on yourself. As like a police, like imagine you're going into like a crack den, or you're going into some like really illegal facility or like building or something, and then you shine a light on yourself as a police officer or something. Like, if he's trying to raise awareness that these things are happening, why would you make a tweet like this and shine a light on yourself so that now it can happen even harder against you? Doesn't make any sense. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Anyways, yeah, it's kind of doomed. Okay, we're in draft. Dig versus 100.